course, delusional Joe and the rest of Team Biden continue to insist that this massive spending debacle will cost the average American taxpayer nothing. Zip, zero, zilch. This message, posted on the official White House Twitter feed, exclaims, "The cost of the Build Back Better agenda is $0, adding it's fully paid for by ensuring big corporations and the very wealthy pay their fair share." Right. Joining us now with his take on Biden's massive spending plan, Representative for Florida's 17th Congressional District, Congressman Greg Steube. Mr. Congressman, how many times do they think if they say it often enough, $0, people are going to be like, okay, cinema, mansion, okay, this doesn't cost anything for any taxpayers whatsoever?
Well, unfortunately for them, the American people are a lot smarter than that, and the American people can see right through that. We just had a vote here in the House to raise the debt ceiling because the amount of spending that we've spent in the last 18 months, you wouldn't be having to raise the debt ceiling if you didn't have this record amount of spending. The American people know that, and actually the bill in the House right now, the bill that's set to go before the House is $4.3 trillion. And what was interesting in the clip that you played right before, Speaker Pelosi couldn't even describe all the things that are in there. 10 million illegal immigrants get amnesty and a spending bill. Tons of liberal socialist policies tied to a spending bill to spend another $5 trillion over several years to add to the $11 trillion that they've spent in the last 18 months.
Nobody knows what's in the bill. None of them have probably read it. How could you read it? You would need several months to do it. And they're so busy doing media gigs and trying to sell this plan. But when you look at how Manchin and Sinema, they really have held out for a long time, considering most Democrats usually fold pretty quickly. Do you think that they're going to hold out longer? How many trillions are they willing to settle for, do you think?
Well, the interesting thing that the Democrats are trying to message on, well, we'll spend 1.2 or 2 trillion or 2.5 trillion in it, appears to be a compromise. That's not a compromise. And what's interesting is all they're doing is shortening the period of time for all of these new programs that they want to create. So just because the price tag may be 1.5 trillion or 2.5 trillion on top of the $1.5 trillion infrastructure package they want to pass in the House, that's just lessening the amount of time of a whole bunch of new social programs that they're trying to enact into law. So don't be confused by their numbers that they're using. And you've got Manchin, who supports some provisions and doesn't support some of the climate change provisions that he says needs to come out. And then Sinema doesn't support the tax increases. So when you take both of those pieces out, I think it'd be very difficult for the Democrats to pass a bill with the progressives who are screaming to raise taxes, who are screaming to spend $5.5 trillion on top of the $11 trillion they just spent.
The wealth tax, when you look at how they actually want to pay for this is going to cost us for generations to come. Our country's not going to survive it. Inflation, when is a good time to start printing money? Oh, yeah, when inflation is through the roof and it shows no signs of it stopping, let's just print more money, as some of the Democrats are saying, because they somehow think printing money never ends up hurting them.
Well, and that's a great point, because we're at record inflation, 21-year record inflation numbers, and we're going to put more money into the economy is the absolutely worst thing that you could do when you're facing an inflation. You shouldn't be dumping more money on an inflated economy. And so all of the things that the Biden administration is doing is exacerbating the current economic crisis that we're seeing. So it's the complete the wrong direction. The American people don't support it. And you see that because even Democrats can't agree on all the things that they want in the bill. I mean, they were talking about an infrastructure package way back in February. Here we are, about to come into November, and they still don't have a vote. They're trying to get a vote on an infrastructure package by the end of this week. Yet we haven't been told anything in the House. We're sitting here a couple of days before the end of the week. I don't see how they get it passed.
I also want to talk to you today about that hearing where we're finally still talking about Afghanistan. A lot in the media have stopped talking about it. But to hear that report that Al-Qaeda and ISIS-K, within 6 months to 2 years, they're expecting them to have the capability to attack us. They already have the inclination. Why aren't we spending money on the things that actually matter, keeping ourselves safe? We're probably going to be sending them aid in the meantime.
Yeah, the Biden administration has already done that, and we handed them $80 billion worth of our weaponry, our night goggles, our night vision goggles, our weapons, our Humvees, our Apaches, our Blackhawks, you name it, close to $80 billion worth of military equipment that now are in the hands of terrorist organizations that we have fought against for 20 years. And then the Biden administration, through the Secretary of State, wants to send them $35 million more for, quote, humanitarian efforts. But if the Taliban is in control of the country, where do you think that money is going to go? That money is not going to make it to the poor young family trying to make ends meet. That money's going directly to the hands of the Taliban because they're the ones that control the country right now.
It's just amazing. The Democrats, all they ever know how to do is throw money at a problem, but they never fix it. Of course, they create the problem in the first place and then throw our money at it. But it's so devastating to see. And hopefully Manchin and Sinema will continue holding out on this, and the media will start talking about Afghanistan again. Because if we're talking about terrorist attacks hitting our soil again, America's going to be, it's already a different place, but the survival of America really is on the line here. Mr. Congressman, thank you for your work. Continue fighting for the American people because we need a voice in Washington right now.
Thanks for having me.